Hi, I'm Kathleen Byram, author of Conversations with Dawnkey, A Bipolar Journey, also known as Kathy the Donkey. I'm here today because I want to read to you from Chapter 3. We had started Chapter 3, and now I want to come to the middle of it and read that to you. Okay, here we go. I liked the normal things children liked growing up. I did like games. I enjoyed doing that. I made up fun board games, too. I remember sliding down the carpeted steps on a cardboard, maybe, and my friend hurt her tailbone. I remember making up the Ghost of Hamlet game. Don't ask how I came up with that as an 8 or 9-year-old. Where I would get under a blanket and the kids would come and tease me and poke at me. And sometimes I would rear up suddenly, making them scream and laugh and run, and it was great fun. I suddenly remembered that my mother was a daycare mother. She had a little daycare in their own home. So I was older than the other kids. I felt like the big cheese. I remember when I was in the Brownies, like Girl Scouts, and was on the Debbie show. Mom's daycare kids got to watch me on there. It must have been very cool for them to see me on TV. I had an 8-ball. You know, the one with the blue or green creepy fluid inside and the pyramid says your answer to it. I loved that 8-ball. I also loved bouncing. There was a boy in our complex when I was in first grade, and he had a rubber bouncy ball with a handle on it. I was crazy for that bouncy ball. I wanted to bounce it so bad. I'd never been on a trampoline or a pogo stick at that age yet. I just always had this desire, this need to bounce like a Tigger. So I politely asked him if I could bounce on his ball. Nope. This was news. Okay, regroup. What if that or this? Nope, nopity, nope. Yes, I now suspect that he was a little butt-face. This gets worse. I finally was so desperate to bounce on that ball that I offered him my beloved 8-ball in return for a bounce. One bounce. And finally he grudgingly accepted. It was a cruel tease of a victory. Later, as I was donking about, as was my wont, I happened upon one of those holes in the bottom of the building, with the metal around it. I don't know how to explain it. Anyway, I looked down. There was my beloved 8-ball broken at the bottom. That broke my heart. And somehow it felt wrong, like I was the one who had messed up here. I had a lovely thing and threw it away for a fling. I felt like I betrayed my 8-ball friend. That's how it felt. I had a tendency always to anthropomorphize things. I didn't care much for dolls, but I loved stuffed animals. I couldn't lay anything that looked like a living being on the floor askew, its face down. I had to lay them carefully always. Anyway, back to fitting in. I must have gotten another 8-ball. Yay! Because one year we spray painted it silver and I played a fortune teller at our friend's carnival. I think she did it to raise money for MD, I think. Anyway, that was very exciting for me, getting dressed up with makeup and all, and playing this fortune teller. Later in our yard one day I set up a table and sign saying I would tell someone's fortune for 50 cents or something like that. A very jolly large man came by in his big car. He reminded me of a friend of ours, so maybe that's why I liked him. He was very good-natured. He howled when I looked at his palm and said he would have XX number of children. He enjoyed himself thoroughly. I always remembered that kind, jolly fellow. I was a fun kid, but my friends were growing up. I wasn't. I remember standing out in the dark with my friends on the street when we were pre-teens. There was a boy in our group who I liked, but my friend got him instead. I didn't resent her for this one tiny bit. I don't know how that could be. Interesting. Anyway, that night we were hanging about being us, and I suddenly thought of a joke. I whispered to my friend to tell her guy, "You need a new butt. Your old one has a crack in it." This was incredibly hilarious to me. I thought they would love it too. She told him. He took his foot and violently shoved his skateboard into her shin. She did not flinch, did not say a word, just looked at him. I don't understand the psychology. I did not understand the psychology behind all this, or the sexuality or anything. I was just hurt as hell at what he had done, and later grateful I had not been his girl. Anyway, that sums up how I felt, like an outsider who didn't understand things. And we're going to stop right there, because I have a very interesting tale to tell you in the rest of Chapter 3 next time. Thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye.